welcome back to Tea Book Club. We're an international group of tea lovers and readers who meet every month. We read a book over a 2-month period, and at the end of the first month we meet for our social, where we chat maybe lightly about the book but also enjoy something else social. Sometimes we have the author come along, or a speaker, or we have a theme. And then at the end of the second month we meet for our discussion, where we review the book and talk about what we liked, what we found interesting, what inspired us, things we maybe didn't like, and it's just a deeper discussion about the book. You can find out more and join us at TeaBookClub.org or on Instagram at JoinTeaBookClub. Those links are both below. Our current read is The One Taste of Truth, Zen and the Art of Drinking Tea by William Scott Wilson. And this is, the introduction is fantastic. And what I've recommended is that reading, you can jump through the chapters because it's quite easily separated. Each chapter has a theme. You don't necessarily need to read cover to cover. And it's poetry that's used in the Japanese tea ceremony. It's displayed in the alcove in the tea ceremony. And he looks at the poems and then breaks them down. So I'm going to do this week's 5-minute reading, and I'm going to start at page 93, chapter 8. Chapter 8, page 93. Nature as it is. Yama kore yama, mizu kore mizu. Mountains are just mountains, rivers are just rivers. Qing Yuan said, before I practiced Zen, mountains were just mountains and rivers were just rivers. Then, when I achieved an understanding of our religion, mountains were no longer mountains and rivers were no longer rivers. But now that I have settled in, mountains are just mountains and rivers are just rivers. This is seeing things just as they are, the lakshana of reality. We must beware of seeing or experiencing anything through religious, philosophical, or idealistic perspectives. At first we see truth, then after years of study we see the truth. But it is only after we have gotten rid of all conceptual lenses through which to view reality that we see the truth. In Zen literature, this is illustrated by the adept who, after reaching true enlightenment, is able to leave his mountaintop and come back to live with his neighbours. In terms of the martial arts, Yagyu Muninori advocated transcending all the techniques one had worked so hard to learn, and wrote, no matter what secret tradition you receive, no matter what technique you use, if your mind is detained by that technique, you will suffer defeat. Expel existence and non-existence altogether and make what lies behind them your own, the life-giving sword. Illustrating that this kind of understanding is not exclusive to monks, tea practitioners or martial artists, he quotes a poem by a courtesan. Having heard you were one who rejected this world, my thought is only this, do not stop your mind in this temporary stay. A full Ichi-gyomono, taken from the 62nd case of the Pienlu, goes, Ten kore ten, chi kore chi, yama kore yama, mizu kore mizu, zoku kore zoku. Heaven is heaven, earth is earth, mountains are mountains, rivers are rivers, monks are monks, lay people are lay people. Each and every phenomenon has its own character, virtue and reality, and we should not mistake one for the other, or think that something is other than that it truly is. This does not mean that they should not exist exclusively by or of themselves, however. The 12th hexagon, P, and of the I Ching, symbolizes heaven or earth, and indicates a situation of being clogged up, stopped, obstructed, and therefore inauspicious. In the image, it states, heaven and earth do not mingle, and so the 10,000 things do not communicate. When high and low do not commingle, the country will be at naught. This is obstruction. When the tea room is filled only with aristocrats or commoners, samurai or merchants, nothing is communicated, feelings are not mutually understood, and the situation does not move forward. When the dojo is occupied by only the best students or beginners, nothing is learned. When one is concerned only with the intellectual and works for nothing in the practical world, he or she is in a position of stagnation. Heaven is heaven, earth is earth, mountains are mountains, rivers are rivers, monks are monks, and lay people are lay people. But what do they mean in isolation? What are mountains without rivers? What are monks without the laity? Number 58. Ten kakushite gai wa nashi, tori tonde tori no gotoshi. Heaven is high and without boundaries, birds fly like birds. People, birds, and every creature are given their portions and their own natural characters. If they are satisfied with their portions and their roles, and are not lost upon the way, harmony, peace, and respect will naturally arise. In this way, heaven is without limits, and our activities are unhindered despite our limitations. When birds fly in the air and fish swim in the deep, they do not do so through any conscious art. Therefore, birds and fish do not themselves know that they are capable of flying or swimming. If they knew this and set their minds on doing it, they would inevitably fall down and be drowned. It is likewise with the moving of man's feet and the grasping of his hand, the listening of his ears and the seeing of his eyes. At the time of their moving, grasping, hearing, and seeing, these acts are of their own accord at the proper occasion and do not wait for the act of thinking before doing so. If they had to wait for thought before acting, they would become exhausted. Hence, it is those persons who accord themselves with the spontaneous, who long survive, and those who attain to the constant norm who win out. A similar quote is the following: Tobe tonde ten ni itari, uo fuchi ni odoru. I'll just finish this little section. The kite flies in the sky, the fish dances in the abyss. The Book of Odes says, the kite flies in the sky, the fish dances in the abyss. These words say that the way is clearly seen above and below. The way of the gentleman is formed simply in the relationship between husband and wife, but it as farthest reaches is clearly seen in heaven and earth. That's from the Chung Yung, chapter 12. Birds flying in the air, fish dancing in the deep, men and women coming together in marriage, the mysteries of heaven and earth, here the deepest principles of reality are clearly manifested, just as in drinking a cup of tea. What could be more of itself so? And if you enjoyed that, do grab a copy of the book and come along and join us at the discussion meetup, which will be at the end of this month. Thank you.